All right, we're starting off. Okay, so I'm Aaron Bowers, and this is my good friend Santiago. Santiago, can you first tell me a little bit about yourself?
All right, so I was raised in L.A., more of like Hollywood, East Hollywood, by LACC, Los Angeles Community College. Grew up in a predominantly Latino community, you know. Grew up around gangs. I got beat up a lot growing up because they wanted me to join the gangs,
Mm-hmm.
and I was always against that. That wasn't me. So my mom got fed up, and we moved to Burbank when I was 13 years old. Went to Catholic school, and when I got to Burbank, it was kind of like my world changed in a bit because it went from Latino community to predominantly white,
Yeah.
and
Okay. Well, that's like the ritzy area too. I mean, I guess that could probably be it could be nice, and it could be also bad things that come from that as well. So I guess the first question that I want to ask you is when was the first time that you experienced some sort of racism in your life? And do you think that happened in Burbank, or was that?
yeah. So it's a good question. So as soon as I got there, so my name's Santiago. It's a very ethnic name. Most people think it's my last name, and my first name is they think
Gil?
Gil is
Gil
my first
Santiago?
name. Yeah, yeah. So I always go through that, and then also Santiago's real ethnic. When I got to Burbank, you know what I mean. It was kind of like I met a good group of friends. They were all white. They
Mm-hmm.
were all white, and I never liked hockey. Like I was never we never played hockey,
It's a great sport.
but when we when we got there, everyone was playing hockey. So I had
Yeah.
my mom buy me rollerblades, hockey stick, and within that community of my circle of friends were great. It was when we played other, other kids that weren't really from our block, which also were white. They kind of had a little tension, like, hey, who's this guy? Why you guys
Yeah.
hanging around with him? So I did feel kind of ostracized on that. Um, my name Santiago, like I said, was too ethnic. It got to a point where I was like, I would tell people my name. Oh, San Diego, Santa Claus. Bro, it really, and I'm truthful. Like I changed it to Michael on my own.
Wow.
I was just like, just call me Michael, dude. I'm Michael. Everyone knew me as Michael for like
Really?
a good, yeah, for like a good year or two, just because Santiago wasn't, and it wasn't like I wasn't happy with my name. It was just that, dude, everyone just butchered my name,
Yeah.
and it was, they kind of mock it.
Well, they would. They didn't. It sounds like they didn't try to
Yeah.
to take it on and to accept it.
Like I said, I was young. I mean, now that I look back at it, I would never be, ashamed of my name or, where I came from. But it was just kind of like, Burbank. It was at that time in 1997, there wasn't that many Latino people living in Burbank.
Mm-hmm.
It was a predominantly white community. Until this day, it's still predominantly white. But
it still is.
my mom wanted the best for me and my brother, and we moved to a good house, a good living, and I'm appreciative for that.
She sounds wise.
Yes.
That was probably a very intelligent decision.
But that was my first time where I can say, dude, it's like, yeah, it's like they don't want me around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my first, and it kind of, like I said, it got to a point where like I changed my name, so it did impact me in certain ways that I wasn't used to. What was funny, one of the kids, my neighbors, since Burbank, a lot of people do TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you watched Married with Children.
Yeah.
The little kid Shane, the adopted kid with the red hair.
Yep.
He was my neighbor.
Really?
So we always played. It was hockey with him. We'd go to the movies. It was good.
Yeah.
But it
well,
was
that
like I
sounds-
said, it was their friends that didn't know me. They were like, don't hang around with him.
predominantly white.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
That makes that's in. So we're gonna move on to the next question, and even though that's very very significant, what would you say is the most significant time that you can recall that you were racially discriminated against? Something that was like really like, wow, that was like ridiculous or outrageous.
Okay. I mean,
Or something just, I mean, it doesn't even need to be crazy or like
not like extremely
upfront,
direct,
but like
I-
something significant to you.
Yes. So I would say like my first semester at USC, I started in 2015 in the spring. My first semester coming from community college, it's a complete day and night experience. So I'm in the public policy and law track at Price, and most of my classes are predominantly white or Asian. African Americans and Latinos were maybe like two or three
Mm-hmm.
in every class for the most part. And my first class I was kind of new, didn't know anyone, trying to make friends, put myself out there like that, like, hey guys, I know I'm a non-traditional student. I was like 31 at the time, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm significantly older than everyone, and I had the veteran backpack, so they kind of knew I was military. So from my view, my perspective, I feel like they were really, more not trying to help me or ostracizing me. I think it's because my race. I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
I said, I put myself out there, and everyone that kind of already knew each other. So I was that new kid
Yeah.
all over again, right, from Burbank. So it's like I'm new, and I'm trying to reach out. I'm trying to be like, hey, this is, I was taking an upper level division class, so
Yeah.
that was kind of wrong for me to do on my first semester. But you know,
Still.
I really felt like it was at times I didn't want to come back to school. I felt like, you know what, I'm struggling already with, like, my family. I work full time, and then I got to come home to school. I mean, got to come to school where where students don't even want to help each other.
Yeah.
And I thought USC's foundation was all about unity, helping each other out. The Trojan way.
Trojan family.
Yeah. So it's like it was a little good to swallow, hard to swallow, and my first semester. So I felt really, really ostracized or very directed towards mainly my race.
Yeah.
Also, the veteran factor played into it. My age played into it. So there's a lot of components
Absolutely.
that made me feel that way.
Absolutely. Here's a curveball for you, because you said we talked about the questions before, but
Yes.
out of curiosity, have you noticed later at USC? Have you noticed like a change, or not necessarily a change in the whole? Like, you're not going to get a different demeanor altogether, but like once people get to know you, have you seen that like that changes things, that like breaks down those walls?
You know what? Yeah. So later on in that class, there was a student, Tom Moran, a brilliant student, and he went out of his way to kind of go over the stuff in class.
Mm-hmm.
And he was from Chicago, a white kid, very smart. Like I said, got accepted to Harvard,
Wow.
Yale, but USC gave him a scholarship, so he came to USC. And I was like pretty much. I know he's younger than me, but he was like my mentor. Like I looked at him and I felt like he was on top of everything, because he was on it in class. He read everything. So because of him, he gave me a different outlook at USC.
Yeah.
He was willing to help me as much as possible, and even though it was kind of like he didn't need it. He didn't need the help. He was willing to help me get better in the class.
I've read
And
into
also through the semesters went by, the same group of people that kind of like ostracized me at first, they saw my ability to step up in class, my ability to participate, that I wasn't just a basic student. I was trying to achieve at the highest level as possible. And then later on they were like, hey, you wanna be in our group? Like just for example, my first class just prior to this, there was two students, a male and a female, that I've had in two semesters ago. Never really said anything, but how they knew me already and knew what kind of student I was. Today they were like, "Hey, Gil, you want to work with us in our group project?" And that kind of through the semesters, it feels good. It feels good that to be a part. Like, you know what, they're not looking at me as my race. They know, hey, this guy, he's a contender. He's throwing punches, and he wants to get that degree just like us.
I think that's what's really important too, is like they were probably gravitated to, I mean, because initially with race you kind of see like, I think everybody has their preconceived notions of individual races and stuff, and so like maybe they had that like hesitation because of that race factor. But like once you get to know someone, I mean, Santiago, you're a big guy, so like some people, I mean, you could be intimidating in the sense just where you're a bigger gentleman, but at the same time, like we have to consider the possibility that like it was because of your race, and because they didn't know who you were as an individual and they had these preconceived notions. So I think that once your personality came out as an individual, as a leader, and like your drive and your ambition, that motivates people, and I think that people gravitate to that. And so I think it's definitely definitely awesome, like the fact that you are who you are because you can pull people to you. I mean myself included. I consider you a good friend of mine. So, like you race thing, especially we saw that in the Warrior Scholar Project. I don't want to ramble too much, but like race came up in that issue and stuff, and we had all these preconceived notions about individuals and stuff. Somebody thought I was a white supremacist, but that's a story for another time. I think I'm far from a white supremacist. I guess I just look the part.
And that's the thing that we got to stop judging people, right? People dress a certain way because they dress a certain way. It doesn't really have to associate them with a certain specific group.
Precisely. Well, thank you so much for sitting with me and talking with me,
Hey,
Santiago.
thank you for having me, and definitely good luck on this.
Thank you.
Anyway, all right.
Thank you.